I pulled up to my son's upscale apartment building in a borrowed beat-up truck, wearing clothes from the thrift store downtown. For 30 years, Marcus never knew about my $40,000 monthly income from commercial real estate. I taught him the value of hard work by living modestly myself. Today I'd meet Sarah, his wife of 3 months, for the first time. I wanted to see her true character before revealing my wealth. When she opened that door and saw my worn jacket and scuffed boots, her welcoming smile vanished, instantly replaced by barely concealed disgust. The apartment door swung open, and there stood Sarah. She was tall, blonde, immaculately dressed in what looked like designer clothes. Her smile had been bright for exactly half a second, before her eyes traveled down from my face to my faded flannel shirt, my patched work pants, and my old boots that had seen better days about a decade ago. "Oh," she said, and that single syllable carried more judgment than a courthouse. "You must be Marcus's father." I extended my hand. "Call me Calhoun. It's real nice to finally meet you." She looked at my hand like I was offering her a dead fish, then gave it the briefest possible shake, with just her fingertips. "Marcus didn't mention you were coming straight from work." I wasn't coming from work. I'd specifically chosen these clothes from my closet, where I kept my oldest belongings. But I just smiled. "Well, you know how it is." She stepped back to let me in, but her body language screamed discomfort. The apartment was stunning. Hardwood floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking downtown furniture that probably cost more than most people's cars. Everything was cream and chrome and glass, the kind of place you see in magazines. Marcus came bounding out of the kitchen, grinning ear to ear. "Dad, you made it." He hugged me tight, and I hugged him back, feeling that familiar warmth of holding my boy. He'd grown into a good man, 32 years old, working as a financial analyst at a major firm downtown. I was proud of him every single day. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, son. Come on, dinner's almost ready." Sarah made her famous chicken piccata. Marcus's enthusiasm was genuine and infectious. He was clearly thrilled to have us together. Sarah forced a smile. "I'll just set another place." During dinner, she seated me at the far end of their long dining table, as far from her as possible, while still technically being at the same piece of furniture. Marcus sat in the middle, oblivious to the tension. My plate held noticeably smaller portions than theirs. I noticed, but I didn't say anything. Sarah's phone buzzed constantly throughout the meal. She checked it every few minutes, barely acknowledging my attempts at conversation. When I asked about her work, she gave me one-word answers. When I complimented the food, she said thanks without looking up from her screen. Marcus filled the silence with stories about work, about their honeymoon in Bali, about their plans to renovate the second bedroom. Sarah nodded along but contributed little except to occasionally mention brands or prices. The tiles we're looking at are imported Italian marble, $300 per square foot. Marcus's bonus this year should cover the sub-zero refrigerator I've been wanting. Everything was a price tag with her. Everything was about status and luxury and showing off what they had. I watched her carefully. This was exactly why I dressed this way. I needed to see who she really was when she thought I had nothing to offer. After dinner, I helped Marcus clear the plates, despite Sarah's half-hearted protest that I was a guest. In the kitchen, Marcus whispered, "She's just nervous. First time meeting you and all. She'll warm up, I promise." I patted his shoulder. "I'm sure she will, son." But I wasn't sure at all. As I prepared to leave, thanking them for dinner and promising to visit again soon, I realized I'd left my keys on the living room coffee table. I walked back through the hallway and heard Sarah's voice coming from the kitchen. She was on the phone, her tone completely different from the strained politeness she'd shown me all evening. "I can't believe it, Tracy." His father showed up looking like a homeless person. Old clothes, driving some piece of junk truck. "Can you believe Marcus comes from that? I thought he came from money." This changes everything about our arrangement. I froze in the hallway, hidden from view. No, Marcus is still valuable. He makes good money himself. But I was counting on family wealth too, you know. An inheritance situation. This is not what I signed up for. She laughed, but it was cold and calculating. "I need to figure out how to handle this. The plan might need adjusting." "Yeah, I'll keep you posted. This is going to be more work than I thought." My chest tightened. I grabbed my keys as quietly as possible and left without saying goodbye. In the truck, I sat for 10 minutes, in the parking garage, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to process what I'd just heard. This wasn't just a snobby woman judging me for my appearance. Sarah had married Marcus with expectations about money. She had a plan, an arrangement. She was calculating something, and my son was part of an equation he didn't even know existed. I drove home to my modest 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood, the same house I'd lived in for 35 years. Marcus had grown up here. The mortgage had been paid off for decades. The house was worth maybe $350,000 in today's market, nothing fancy, but it was home. Inside, I sat in my worn recliner and stared at the wall. I'd bought that recliner 20 years ago. It was patched with duct tape on one arm. My television was old, my furniture mismatched and comfortable. I lived simply by choice, not necessity. My monthly income from the 12 commercial properties I owned across 3 states was more than most people made in a year. But I'd never cared about showing it off. I'd raised Marcus to value hard work, to build his own success, to not rely on handouts or inheritance. I'd paid for his college education, but made him work part-time to cover his living expenses. I'd taught him that money was a tool, not an identity. And now he'd married a woman who saw him as exactly that, a financial tool, an arrangement. I didn't sleep that night. I kept hearing her voice. This changes everything about our arrangement. What arrangement? What plan? By morning, I'd made my decision. I needed to know exactly who Sarah was before I decided what to do next. Monday morning, I called an old friend. Jack Patterson had been a private investigator for 40 years before retiring to do consultant work. We'd served together in the Army back in the 70s, stayed close ever since. Jack, I need your help. It's about Marcus. 2 hours later, we were sitting in a diner on the South Side, and I was telling him everything. The test, the dinner, the overheard phone conversation. Jack listened without interrupting, taking notes on a small pad. You want me to look into Sarah, he said. It wasn't a question. Everything. Background history, financial records if you can get them. I need to know who my son married. Jack nodded slowly. I'll call you in a week. Maybe less if I find something urgent. I thanked him and reached for my wallet, but he waved me off. This one's on the house. Marcus is like a nephew to me. If someone's running a game on him, we need to know. That same afternoon, my phone rang. It was Sarah. Calhoun High. Her voice was suddenly bright, friendly, completely different from the cold woman at dinner. I wanted to apologize for being distant the other night. I was just so nervous about making a good impression, and I think I came off as rude. Can we start over? I kept my voice neutral. No need to apologize. First meetings are always a bit awkward. Still, I'd love to take you to lunch this week. Just you and me, get to know each other properly. What do you say Wednesday? I agreed, curiosity overriding my suspicion. What was she playing at? Wednesday arrived, and Sarah had chosen an upscale bistro downtown, the kind of place with tiny portions and enormous prices. She was already seated when I arrived, wearing another expensive outfit and waving enthusiastically. Calhoun, so glad you could make it. She air-kissed both my cheeks like we were old friends. Throughout lunch, she asked questions. Lots of questions. About where I lived, what I did for work, whether I owned or rented my house, what kind of retirement I had. She dressed it all up as friendly curiosity, but I recognized an interrogation when I heard one. I played dumb. Told her I lived on a small pension from my years working construction. Said the house was paid off but not worth much. Mentioned I had a little savings but nothing significant. Her smile tightened with each answer. By dessert, she'd moved on to a new angle. You know, Marcus has been really stressed about money lately. The student loans, the cost of living in the city, our rent here is $4,000 a month. It's a lot of pressure on him. She paused, stirring her coffee with delicate precision. I was thinking if you ever wanted to help out even a little bit, I know it would mean the world to him. There it was. She was testing me, trying to see if I'd been lying about my finances. I wish I could help, I said, shaking my head sadly. But I'm living pretty tight myself. Fixed income, you know how it is. Can barely afford to help myself sometimes. Something flickered across her face. Disappointment. Maybe anger. But she covered it quickly. Of course I understand. I shouldn't have asked. It's just hard watching Marcus work so much. She paid for lunch, I noticed. Made a point of using a black credit card and mentioning it was our premium rewards card. I drove home feeling more unsettled than before. Sarah wasn't just cold or snobby. She was actively probing for money, trying to figure out if there were resources she could access through me. The question was why? What did she need money for? My phone rang that evening. It was Jack. "We need to talk. In person. Can you meet me tomorrow morning?" The urgency in his voice made my stomach drop. "I'll be there." The next morning, Jack slid a manila folder across the table at our usual diner booth. His face was grim. "You need to read this. All of it." I opened the folder. Inside were printed documents, photographs, news articles. The first page was a background report on Sarah Jennifer Caldwell, 30 years old, originally from Hartford, Connecticut. No college degree, despite claiming on social media to have graduated from Boston University. 3 previous addresses in 3 different states, never staying anywhere longer than 18 months. Then came the photograph. Sarah, in an engagement announcement from a Connecticut newspaper dated 3 years ago. She was engaged to a man named Richard Pemberton, described as a prominent commercial real estate developer. My blood ran cold. Commercial real estate. Just like me. I kept reading. The engagement had been called off abruptly. No wedding ever took place. Jack had included a note, talked to a source in Hartford PD. Off the record, Pemberton's family discovered Sarah was faking a pregnancy to force a quick marriage. They threatened legal action. She disappeared before anything was filed. There were more documents. Credit reports showing Sarah had $83,000 in credit card debt across 11 cards. Screenshots from an exclusive dating app called Elite Connections, where her profile explicitly stated she was looking for successful, established professionals with financial security. Jack had highlighted one part of her profile description. "I appreciate the finer things in life, and am looking for a partner who shares my taste for luxury and success." The last document was the most damning. A police report from 2 years ago in Chicago. A man named Stephen Yates had filed a complaint against a woman matching Sarah's description for fraud and extortion. The case had been dropped when Yates refused to testify, but the report detailed how she'd allegedly extracted $60,000 from him through threats to expose their affair to his employer. I sat back feeling sick. "There's more," Jack said quietly. "I've got a contact doing a deeper dive. She's had at least 3 different last names. Caldwell might not even be her real name. This woman is a professional Calhoun. She finds successful men, figures out what she can take, and disappears when it gets hot." "Marcus," I whispered. "I have to tell him. He's not going to believe you. Not easily. He's in love with her. You're going to need proof, and even then." Jack trailed off, shaking his head. He was right. I'd seen the way Marcus looked at Sarah. He was completely smitten. If I came to him with accusations, he'd think I was being a judgmental father who didn't approve of his choice, especially after our dinner where Sarah could easily claim I'd been cold to her. But I had to try. That afternoon, I called Marcus and asked him to meet me for lunch. Just the 2 of us, father and son. He sounded busy but agreed. Friday at noon at the same diner where I'd been meeting Jack. Friday came and Marcus showed up looking tired but happy. We ordered burgers and coffee, and for a few minutes we just talked about normal things. Work, basketball, whether he'd been keeping up with his old college friends. Then I took a breath and started. "Son, I need to talk to you about something important." Before I could continue, Marcus's face lit up. "Actually, Dad, I have news too. Big news." He reached across the table and grabbed my hand. "Sarah's pregnant. We just found out yesterday. We're having a baby." The world tilted. Everything I'd been about to say evaporated from my mind. "A baby," I managed. "I know, right? We weren't planning on it happening this fast, but we're so excited." "You're going to be a grandfather," Marcus was practically glowing. "Sarah's already talking about names, about how we need to move to a bigger place, about all the things we need to buy. It's overwhelming, but in the best way." I sat frozen. Was the pregnancy real this time, or was Sarah running the same con she'd pulled in Connecticut? That's wonderful, son." The words felt like broken glass in my mouth. "I know you and Sarah got off on the wrong foot, but she's really amazing, Dad. She's going to be such a great mother. And I know once you get to know her better, you'll see what I see." This was my moment. I should tell him everything. Show him the folder Jack had given me. Warn him that Sarah might be faking the pregnancy, that she had a history of manipulation and fraud. But looking at his face, seeing his pure joy, I couldn't do it. Not like this. Not right after he'd shared the happiest news of his life. "Marcus, there are some things about Sarah that you should know. Her past. His expression changed immediately. The joy faded, replaced by defensiveness. What about her past? I've been doing some checking, and there are some concerning things. Financial issues. A broken engagement where there were accusations. Marcus pulled his hand back. You've been investigating my wife. Are you serious right now? Son, I'm just trying to protect you. Protect me. His voice rose slightly. Several people at nearby tables glanced over. From what? From being happy, Dad, I know you're used to. Me being alone, used to it being just us, but I have a family now. My own family. And I need you to respect that. Marcus, please just look at this. I started to reach for my bag where I'd brought copies of some of Jack's findings. No. He stood up abruptly. I know Sarah was a little cold when you came over. She told me she was nervous, and then you barely spoke to her. She thought you didn't like her. And now I find out you've been digging into her background like she's some kind of criminal. There are things you don't know. And there are things you don't know, Dad. Like how she's been worried sick about making a good impression on you. Like how she came from a difficult family and had to work twice as hard for everything she has. Like how she makes me happier than I've ever been. He threw two $20 bills on the table. I thought you'd be happy for me. I thought my father would trust my judgment. But I guess I was wrong. He walked out of the diner, leaving me sitting alone with my untouched burger and a folder full of evidence he refused to see. I'd lost him. In trying to protect my son, I'd driven a wedge between us. And Sarah was still there, whispering in his ear, spinning her web. For the next week, Marcus didn't return my calls. My text messages went unanswered. I'd sent him a letter through the mail, a carefully written explanation of what I'd discovered with copies of the most important documents from Jack's investigation. I had no idea if he'd even opened it. Every night I sat in my recliner staring at my phone, hoping it would ring. I thought about showing up at his apartment, but knew that would only make things worse. Sarah had successfully positioned me as the overbearing father who couldn't accept his son's happiness. The second week after our disastrous lunch, my phone finally rang. It was Marcus, but before I could feel relief, I heard the anger in his voice. What the hell is wrong with you? Marcus, I can explain. The police called me today, Dad. The police. Asking questions about your behavior toward Sarah. About whether you've been harassing her. My blood went ice cold. What are you talking about? Sarah filed a report. She said you've been making inappropriate comments to her, sending her strange messages, making her uncomfortable. She showed me text messages from your number, Dad. Disgusting things. Things I can't even repeat. Marcus, I never sent her any messages. I haven't contacted her at all since that lunch we had. She has screenshots. With your phone number right there. Don't lie to me. My mind raced. Those can be faked. Someone with the right software can spoof a phone number and make it look like texts came from anyone. Oh, so now there's a conspiracy against you, Dad. Listen to yourself. You sound paranoid. Did you get my letter? Did you read the documents I sent? There was a pause. Sarah showed me a package that came to our apartment. She opened it, thinking it might be something for the baby. Instead, it was more of your obsessive research about her. She was crying, Dad. Crying because my father has been stalking her, digging into her past, making things up to try to destroy our marriage. I'm not making anything up. Everything in that report is true. You can verify it yourself. The broken engagement, the debt, the dating app profile where she specifically targets wealthy men. Stop it, Marcus's voice cracked. Just stop. Sarah explained everything. The engagement ended because the guy was abusive. She has debt because she was helping her sick mother with medical bills. The dating app thing. Everyone on those apps is looking for compatible partners. There's nothing sinister about wanting someone financially stable. Every lie Sarah had told him he'd swallowed whole. She'd twisted every fact, turned every red flag into a reasonable explanation. And he believed her because he wanted to. Because he was in love. Because she was carrying what he thought was his child. Marcus, please. Just talk to the ex-fiancé yourself. Talk to Richard Pemberton in Connecticut. Ask him what really happened. I'm done with this conversation. I'm done with you interfering in my life. Sarah's been trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, trying to build a relationship despite how you've treated her. But you keep pushing and pushing with these crazy accusations. Son, Sarah said I should cut contact with you for a while. I didn't want to believe she was right, but maybe she is. Maybe you've become someone I don't recognize. Someone who would rather see me miserable than see me happy with a woman you didn't choose. The words hit like physical blows. That's not true. Marcus, I love you. Everything I'm doing is because I love you. Love doesn't look like this, Dad. Love is supporting your kid when they're happy. Love is trusting them to make their own choices. You don't get to control my life anymore. I'm not trying to control. The line went dead. He'd hung up on me. I called back immediately. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. He'd blocked my number. I sat there holding my phone, feeling more helpless than I'd ever felt in my life. My son had cut me out. Sarah had successfully turned him against me. And now she'd escalated by filing a false police report. 2 days later, Jack called me with more bad news. There's been talk around town. Nothing concrete but rumors. People saying you've been inappropriate with a younger woman, that there's an investigation. It's affecting your business, Calhoun. 3 of your tenants called me asking if they should be concerned about renewing their leases. I closed my eyes. My reputation built over 40 years of honest dealings was being systematically destroyed. How is she doing this? Sarah's not working alone, Jack said. I've been digging deeper. She has a brother named Kyle. He's the tech guy. He's the one creating the fake messages, spreading the rumors online. They've done this before. They find a target, isolate him, destroy his credibility, and then offer a way out that involves a large cash payment. Blackmail. Exactly. And they're good at it. Kyle has warrants in Texas and Florida for wire fraud and identity theft, but he's been staying off the grid, using fake IDs moving around. Sarah is the face, the one who builds the relationships. Kyle does the dirty work in the background. What do I do? Right now, nothing. If you push back, they'll escalate. They're waiting for you to get desperate enough to pay them to go away. That's when they'll make their move. I didn't have to wait long. That evening, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Sarah standing on my porch, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, looking nothing like the polished woman from before. "Can I come in?" she asked. "We need to talk." Every instinct screamed at me to slam the door, but I needed to understand what she wanted. I stepped aside and let her in. She looked around my modest living room with barely concealed contempt, then sat delicately on the edge of my old couch, like she might catch something. "I'll get straight to the point," she said. "You've caused me a lot of stress, Calhoun. The investigation, the accusations, the way you've turned Marcus against me. It's been very difficult. I haven't turned Marcus against you. You've turned him against me." She smiled, cold and calculating. "Semantics. Here's what matters. I know who you really are now. Took some digging, but my brother's very good at what he does. 12 commercial properties across 3 states. Monthly income of about $40,000. Net worth somewhere around $8 million. That's impressive, Calhoun. All that money and you live like this." She gestured around the room with disdain. My jaw clenched. "What do you want?" "I want to make a deal. A mutually beneficial arrangement." She leaned back, crossing her legs. "You're going to pay me $300,000. In exchange, I'll disappear from Marcus's life. Cleanly, gently. I'll fake a miscarriage, tell him I need space to heal, and leave him with minimal emotional damage. He'll be heartbroken for a while, but he'll move on. Find someone who actually loves him." "You're not really pregnant, are you?" She laughed. "Does it matter? The pregnancy test was positive. That's all Marcus needs to know. You're extorting me. I'm offering you a solution. See, you have 2 choices. Pay me and I go away. Your son gets hurt a little bit now, but recovers. Or don't pay me and I stay. I bleed him dry financially over the next few years. I destroy his credit, max out every card in his name, take out loans he doesn't know about. I turn him completely against you forever, making sure he never speaks to you again. When I'm done with him, I'll leave anyway, but he'll be ruined. Broke, alone, hating his father." She examined her fingernails casually. "Your choice. 300,000 to save your son, or nothing, and watch me destroy him. And if I go to the police, with what you have no proof of anything, the texts from your number are real as far as any forensics expert will be able to tell. My brother's that good. I've already told Marcus you made inappropriate advances. Who do you think he'll believe? His loving pregnant wife or his father who's been acting increasingly unstable?" She stood up, smoothing her sweater. "You have 48 hours to decide. My brother will contact you with wire transfer instructions." She walked to the door, then turned back. "For what it's worth, Marcus really is a good guy. Sweet, Naive, too trusting. In another life, I might have actually liked him. But business is business. She left, and I stood there in my living room, shaking with rage and fear and helplessness. She'd backed me into a corner with no good options. Pay and I was funding a criminal, while teaching her that this behavior works. Don't pay, and Marcus suffered. I called Jack and told him everything. She's escalating faster than I expected, he said. That means she's either desperate for money or she's got another target lined up and wants to move on. Either way, Calhoun, you can't pay her. It won't end there. She'll come back for more. Then what do? Let her destroy my son? No. We build a case. A real one. And we take her down properly. But it's going to take time we might not have. That night I didn't sleep at all. I lay in bed watching the ceiling, thinking about Marcus as a little boy, teaching him to ride a bike, helping him with homework, watching him graduate high school, then college, being there when he got his first real job. I'd been there for every milestone, every important moment, and now I couldn't protect him from the worst threat he'd ever faced. The next morning I'd decided to pay Sarah. It killed me to even think it, but I couldn't watch her destroy Marcus. $300,000 was a lot of money, but my son was worth more than any amount of cash. I was about to call my bank when my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Calhoun. A man's voice, smooth and professional. My name is Derek Hartman. You don't know me, but we have a mutual acquaintance. Sarah Caldwell. My heart rate spiked. Who are you? I'm a real estate developer here in the city. Married. 2 kids. Successful business. And 6 months ago, I paid Sarah $300,000 to keep quiet about an affair we had. He paused. I'm guessing she's making you a similar offer. I sat down heavily. How did you get my number? I've been keeping tabs on Sarah since our situation ended. When I saw she'd married someone new, I figured it was only a matter of time before the pattern repeated. I have a private investigator who's been monitoring her activities. He told me about your involvement. Why are you calling me? Because I'm tired of living in fear. Because she's done this to at least 4 other men that I know of. Because my wife almost found out, and I nearly lost everything. And because I think if we work together, we might actually be able to stop her. I'm listening. Sarah doesn't work alone. She has a brother named Kyle Morrison. He's the technical expert. Creates fake evidence, manufactures digital trails, spreads rumors through social media. They're a team, and they're very good at what they do. But they're not perfect. What do you know about them? Kyle has warrants in 2 states. Sarah has run this con in Connecticut, Chicago, Boston, and now here. Total take from all victims is probably over $2 million. She targets men with money, usually older, often with complicated family situations. She creates leverage through fake pregnancies, manufactured evidence of affairs, or threats to reputation. Then she offers a way out for a price. How do we stop them? Derek sighed. That's the problem. I can't go to the police without exposing my affair. My wife would divorce me. I'd lose half of everything I own, probably lose access to my kids. Sarah knows this. That's why she picked me. That's why she picks all her victims. We're people who can't fight back without destroying ourselves. So we're trapped. Maybe not. I've been documenting everything since I paid her. Communications, patterns, evidence. If we could find one of her other victims willing to come forward, someone with less to lose, we might have a case. But it would take time. And from what my investigator tells me, you don't have much time. She gave me 48 hours. That was yesterday. Then you have about 24 hours before she starts escalating. He paused. There's another option. It's risky, but it might work. What? Wear a wire. Get her to confess on tape. With enough evidence, the FBI might be interested. Wire fraud, extortion, identity theft. Those are federal crimes. But you'd have to play along, make her think you're paying, and get her talking. I can't do that alone. She's too smart. She'll know something's wrong. You won't be alone. I'll help. And I'll reach out to another victim I know about. If we all work together, we might have a chance. It was a long shot. A desperate plan. But it was the only plan that didn't involve either paying a criminal or watching my son get destroyed. I'm in, I said. Tell me what to do. The next 12 hours were a blur. Derek connected me with his investigator and with a lawyer he trusted. The lawyer's name was Patricia Monroe, a sharp woman in her 50s who specialized in fraud cases. When I told her the whole story, she listened without interrupting, then made 3 phone calls. The first was to a contact at the FBI. The second was to Derek. The third was to a man named Brian Foster, another of Sarah's victims from Boston. By evening, we were all sitting in Patricia's office. Me, Derek, Brian, Patricia, her investigator, and an FBI agent named Daniel Torres. Agent Torres looked at the evidence spread across the conference table. This is substantial. Wire fraud, identity theft, extortion, conspiracy. If we can get solid evidence, we can build a RICO case. But we need more than documents and testimony. We need her on record admitting to the crimes. Calhoun's willing to wear a wire, Derek said. Brian, a quiet man in his early 50s, nodded. I'll testify. She got $60,000 from me 2 years ago. Claimed she'd tell my employer about our relationship. I paid her to go away. I'm willing to go on record now. Agent Torres looked at me. Mr. Calhoun, if you do this, there are risks. If Sarah or her brother suspects you're recording, they might get violent. They might accelerate their plans against your son. Are you willing to take that risk? I thought about Marcus, about the grandson I might never meet, about watching Sarah drain every bit of happiness and money from my boy's life. Yes, I said. I'm willing. The plan was set. I would call Sarah, tell her I'd pay. We'd arrange to meet at a bank the next morning to do the wire transfer. Agent Torres would wire me for audio and video. Other agents would be positioned nearby. Once Sarah and Kyle showed up and confirmed the arrangement on tape, they'd move in. It was dangerous. It was complicated. But it was our shot. That night I made the call. Sarah, it's Calhoun. I'll pay. $300,000. But we do this in person at my bank tomorrow morning at 10. I want to see you receive the money before you leave Marcus's life. There was a pause. I could almost hear her calculating, trying to figure out if this was a trap. Fine, she said finally. But my brother comes with me. For security. That's fine. Just come. Smart choice, Calhoun. You're saving your son a lot of pain. Just be there. I hung up and looked at Agent Torres. She's bringing Kyle. Is that good or bad? Good. We get both of them at once. He handed me a small device. This goes in your jacket pocket tomorrow. Don't touch it. Don't adjust it. Just wear the jacket and act natural. That night I barely slept again, but this time it wasn't from helplessness. It was from nervous energy. Tomorrow, one way or another, this would be over. At 9 the next morning, Agent Torres fitted me with the wire. A tiny camera in my jacket button, a microphone in the lining. I wore a simple button-down shirt, and my old jacket, the same one I'd worn to Marcus's apartment that first night. Remember, Torres said, get her talking. Get her to admit to the extortion, to the fake pregnancy, to the other victims. The more she says, the stronger our case. What if she doesn't say anything incriminating? Then we have a problem. But people like Sarah, they like to gloat. They like to feel superior. Use that. At 9:45, I walked into my bank. First National had been my bank for 30 years. The manager, Helen, knew me well. She'd been briefed by Agent Torres and knew what was happening. She'd prepared a private office for the transaction. At exactly 10, Sarah walked in. She was dressed professionally, hair pulled back, looking like a successful businesswoman. Behind her came a man I assumed was Kyle. 30s, thin, nervous energy, constantly scanning the room. He wore a baseball cap pulled low and sunglasses even though we were indoors. Calhoun, Sarah said warmly, as if we were old friends meeting for coffee. Shall we? Helen led us to the private office. Sarah and Kyle sat across from me. Kyle immediately pulled out his phone, presumably to provide the account information for the wire transfer. Before we start, I said slowly, I want to make sure I understand the arrangement. I pay you $300,000 and you leave Marcus. You fake a miscarriage and tell him you need space. Then you disappear completely from his life. Sarah smiled. That's correct. Clean break. He'll be sad for a while, but he'll move on. You're really doing him a favor, Calhoun. And the pregnancy, it's not real. She laughed softly. Does it matter? But since you're paying, I'll tell you the truth. I'm not pregnant, never was. Just a positive test I bought online. $50 shows positive for 3 weeks. Long enough to lock down commitment, not long enough that he'd expect to see actual symptoms. Kyle shifted uncomfortably. Sarah, maybe we shouldn't. Relax. We're among friends here. She leaned back confident. Calhoun's not stupid. He knows how this works. He's not the first man to pay me to go away. He won't be the last. How many others? I asked. Why, you want references? She laughed again. Let's see. Richard in Connecticut, that was my biggest score until now. Stephen in Chicago was quick cash. Brian in Boston was almost too easy. Derek here in the city, though Derek had more to lose than most. And now you. 5 successful arrangements in 3 years. Not bad, right? Kyle looked increasingly nervous. Sarah, we should just get the money and go. In a minute. She looked at me with something like admiration. You know what's funny, Calhoun? You actually are rich. If Marcus had known, if you'd been honest with him from the start, this whole thing might have gone differently. I might have played the long game, been the dutiful daughter-in-law, waited for an inheritance. But you had to play your little test, pretend to be poor. That made you the enemy. That made you a target instead of an asset. So this was always about money. Everything's about money. Love, family relationships, it's all just transactions. Some people are honest about it, some people pretend otherwise. But in the end, we're all looking for what we can get. She gestured to Kyle. Give him the account information. Let's finish this. Kyle pulled out a piece of paper with account details. He slid it across the desk, but his hand was shaking. I looked at the paper, then back at Sarah. One more question. The police report. The inappropriate text messages. That was your brother's work. Kyle's very talented. He can make any message appear to come from any number. It's all about the metadata. The police believe it because it looks real at every technical level. She smiled. That's how we protect ourselves. If any victim tries to fight back, we have evidence they're the bad guy. It's brilliant, really. The door burst open. Agent Torres and 3 other FBI agents flooded into the room, guns drawn. FBI hands where we can see them. Sarah's face transformed from smug confidence to absolute shock in a fraction of a second. Kyle jumped up, tried to run, but an agent grabbed him. Sarah Caldwell, Kyle Morrison, you're under arrest for wire fraud, extortion, identity theft, and conspiracy. Torres was reading them their rights, as other agents handcuffed them both. Sarah's eyes locked on mine, and I saw pure rage there. You set me up, she hissed. You're so stupid. Marcus will never forgive you. I've already destroyed your relationship with him. Even from prison I win. Torres pulled her to her feet. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it. As they led her and Kyle out of the office, Sarah screamed back at me. You think you saved him. You didn't save anyone. He hates you. He thinks you're a pervert who harassed his wife. That doesn't change just because I'm arrested. You lost your son, Calhoun. I made sure of it. Then she was gone, her voice echoing down the hallway until a door closed and there was only silence. I sat in the office, hands shaking, adrenaline draining away. Agent Torres came back in, followed by Patricia. You did great, Torres said. That confession is rock solid. We've got her on everything. Both of them. They're looking at 10 to 15 years minimum. What about Marcus? I asked quietly. What about my son? Patricia sat down next to me. That's the part we can't fix with a wire and a sting operation. But you have evidence now. Real evidence. And you have witnesses. Derek, Brian, they'll corroborate that Sarah's a serial con artist. The FBI will provide documentation. It's up to Marcus whether he believes it, but at least now you have the truth on your side. She was right, though, I said. Even with her in prison, the damage is done. Marcus thinks I'm a monster. He won't even take my calls. Then we make him listen, Patricia said firmly. The FBI will need him as a witness eventually. That will force a conversation. And when he sees all the evidence, when he hears from the other victims, when he understands what really happened, he'll come around. And if he doesn't, she didn't have an answer for that. Sarah and Kyle were held without bail, charged with 14 federal counts between them. Agent Torres told me they'd found evidence of 9 victims total, not just the 5 Sarah had mentioned. The total amount stolen was over $2 million, but none of that mattered to me. What mattered was that my son still wouldn't speak to me. The FBI had called Marcus in for questioning. He'd learned that Sarah had been arrested, that she'd been running a con, that the pregnancy was fake. Torres said Marcus had been devastated, sitting in the FBI office in stunned silence as they laid out the evidence. But he still wouldn't call me. 2 weeks passed after the arrest, and my phone stayed silent. I tried texting him. I tried calling. I sent letters. Nothing. It was like he'd vanished from my life completely. Jack came by one evening with news. I talked to one of Marcus's coworkers, a guy I know from the gym. He says Marcus has been a mess. Hasn't been to work in a week. Requested family leave. The word around the office is his wife turned out to be a con artist, and his father was involved in her arrest. Involved, I saved him from her. That's not how he sees it, apparently. The coworker said Marcus feels betrayed by everyone. By Sarah, for lying by you, for being right by himself, for being blind. He's not in a place where he can sort out who the good guys are. I felt hollowed out. I'd won the battle against Sarah but lost the war for my son's trust. Then it got worse. 3 weeks after the arrest, I got a call from Agent Torres. We need to talk. Can you come to my office? When I arrived, Torres looked grim. Sarah's lawyer filed a motion. She's claiming the confession was obtained under duress, that you blackmailed her into making false statements, that the whole thing was a setup orchestrated by you to get revenge because she rejected your inappropriate advances. That's insane. It's a legal strategy. It probably won't work, but it's going to drag things out. And it's going to get public. The media's already picking up on the case. Local woman claims FBI entrapped her at behest of vengeful father-in-law. That's tomorrow's headline. My stomach dropped. My reputation will take another hit. I'm sorry, Calhoun. This is standard procedure for desperate defendants. They throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. The article came out the next day. It painted me as a controlling father who couldn't accept his son's marriage and fabricated evidence to destroy his daughter-in-law. It mentioned the original police report Sarah had filed the inappropriate text messages and characterized the FBI sting as questionable tactics. My phone started ringing. Tenants calling to ask about the allegations. Business partners questioning whether they wanted to be associated with me. People I'd known for decades suddenly treating me with suspicion. I stopped answering the phone, stopped checking my email, sat in my house, and felt my life crumbling around me. Jack kept me updated on Marcus. He'd moved out of the apartment he'd shared with Sarah. He was staying with a friend across town. He still wasn't working. He wasn't talking to anyone much. He needs time, Jack said. This is a lot to process, but time felt like the enemy. Every day that passed without hearing from Marcus was another day our relationship deteriorated beyond repair. 4 weeks after the arrest, Derek called me. I saw the article, he said. It's garbage. We all know it's garbage. But I wanted to tell you something. Sarah's lawyer approached me, offered to keep my name out of the trial if I refused to testify. Basically, they're trying to eliminate witnesses. Are you going to take the deal? Hell no. I'm testifying. Brian is too. We're not letting her win this. But I wanted you to know what she's trying to do. She's still fighting, still manipulating, even from behind bars. A week later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mr. Calhoun. A woman's voice, young, uncertain. My name is Tracy. I was Sarah's roommate in college. I saw the news about her arrest. What can I do for you? I just wanted you to know that I'm glad she got caught. What she's doing to you, trying to make you look bad, it's exactly what she did to people back in school. She'd manipulate situations, turn people against each other, then play the victim. She's really good at it. Why are you telling me this? Because I felt guilty. I've known what she was like for 10 years and I never said anything. I just stayed away from her. But maybe if I'd spoken up sooner, she wouldn't have been able to hurt so many people. She paused. Is your son okay, Marcus? I saw he was her husband. I don't know, I said honestly. He won't talk to me. I'm sorry. For what it's worth, Sarah used to talk about her targets, her marks as she called them. She'd laugh about how easy it was to fool them. But she was scared of people who saw through her. That's why she's attacking you so hard. Because you figured her out, and that terrifies her. After we hung up, I sat with that thought. Sarah was scared of me. That's why she was lashing out. That's why she was trying to destroy my reputation, even from jail. It didn't make me feel better, but it gave me perspective. That night, I made a decision. I was tired of being passive, tired of waiting for Marcus to come around. I needed to fight for my son the same way I'd fought against Sarah. I called Patricia. I want to hold a press conference. I want to tell my side of the story. That's risky, she said. Anything you say publicly can be used against you if Sarah's lawyer spins it right. I don't care. I'm not going to sit here and let her destroy me without fighting back. And maybe, just maybe, if Marcus hears me tell the truth publicly, it'll mean something. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Okay, I'll set it up. But we do this carefully. We stick to facts. We don't attack Sarah personally. We focus on the evidence and on protecting other potential victims. 2 days later, I stood in front of a small group of reporters in Patricia's office. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. My name is Calhoun Mitchell. I'm 67 years old. I'm a father, a businessman, and a victim of extortion. I'm here today to tell you the truth about what happened with Sarah Caldwell. I laid it all out. The test I'd run by pretending to be poor. The discovery of Sarah's criminal history. The fake pregnancy. The extortion attempt. The FBI sting. I acknowledged my mistakes. The test had been a misjudgment, and I should have been honest with my son from the beginning. But I also stood firm on the facts. Sarah was a con artist. She'd victimized multiple men. She'd manufactured evidence and manipulated situations. And she was now trying to manipulate the legal system to avoid consequences. My son Marcus is a good man who fell in love with the wrong person. He's a victim in this too. And if he's watching this, I want him to know I love you. I'm sorry for the way I handled things, but everything I did to protect you. That's all I've ever wanted to do. The reporters asked questions. I answered what I could, deferred to Patricia for legal matters. It felt good to finally speak my truth publicly. The story ran that evening on 3 local news channels. The headline was better this time. Father speaks out. I was protecting my son from con artist. My phone rang an hour after the broadcast. Unknown number again. I answered. Dad, it was Marcus. I couldn't speak for a moment. Just hearing his voice made my throat tight with emotion. Marcus. Son, I've been trying to reach you. I know. His voice was rough, tired. I watched your press conference. I've been doing a lot of thinking. Can we talk? In person. I'm outside your house. In my car. I've been sitting here for 20 minutes trying to work up the courage to knock. I nearly ran to the door, threw it open. And there he was, parked at the curb in his sedan, looking through the windshield at my house. He got out slowly, like every movement hurt. He looked terrible. Thinner, dark circles under his eyes, his clothes rumpled. This wasn't the confident young professional I'd had dinner with weeks ago. This was a broken man. We stood on my porch, neither of us knowing how to start. You want to come in? I asked. He nodded. Inside, we sat in my living room. The same room where Sarah had threatened me. The same couch where she'd sat and demanded $300,000. But now it was just me and my son. The FBI showed me everything Marcus said quietly. All the evidence, the other victims, her history, the fake pregnancy test, the brother who created those text messages. He looked at his hands. I feel like the stupidest person alive. You're not stupid. You fell in love. That's human. I fell in love with a lie. With someone who was using me from day one. Every conversation we had, every moment we shared, it was all calculated. She never loved me. She was just waiting to see how much money she could extract. I'm sorry, son. I'm so sorry you had to go through this. He looked up at me and his eyes were red. Why didn't you tell me you had money? All those years watching me struggle with rent and student loans and trying to build a career. You could have helped. You could have made things easier. But you just watched me struggle. It was the question I'd been dreading, but I owed him the truth. Because I wanted you to be your own man. I grew up poor, Marcus. Real poor. When I started making money, it would have been easy to spoil you, to give you everything. But I'd seen what that did to people. I'd watched rich kids grow up entitled and lazy, never knowing what it means to work for something. I didn't want that for you, so you let me suffer. I let you build character. And you did, Marcus. You became an incredible man. Hardworking, honest kind. That's not because of money. That's because you had to fight for every dollar you earned. You had to make sacrifices. You had to learn the value of things. I paused. Was I wrong? Maybe. I don't know. But my intentions were good. He was quiet for a long time. I understand why you did it. I don't know if I agree with it, but I understand. And the test with Sarah, showing up dressed in old clothes, that was manipulative. That was you playing games with my life. His voice hardened slightly. You don't get to test the people I love, Dad. You don't get to set up scenarios to see how they react. That's not trust. That's control. He was right. I'd known it was wrong even as I did it, but I'd convinced myself it was necessary. You're absolutely right. I was wrong. I should have met Sarah as myself, gotten to know her honestly, and trusted you to make good decisions. Even if I had concerns, I should have raised them directly instead of playing detective. I looked at him. I'm sorry. Truly sorry. The thing is, Marcus said your instincts were right. Sarah was exactly what you suspected. Your method was wrong, but your gut feeling was correct. And I hate that. I hate that you were right and I was so blind. You weren't blind. You were in love. She's a professional con artist, Marcus. She's been doing this for years. She fooled a lot of smart, successful men. This isn't your fault. Feels like it is. We sat in silence for a while. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows through my living room windows. The FBI wants me to testify at the trial, Marcus said finally. They want me to talk about the relationship, about things Sarah said and did. It's going to be public. Everyone at my work will know. Everyone in the city will know I was conned by my own wife. That's not your shame to carry. That's hers. Doesn't feel that way. He rubbed his face with both hands. I don't even know who I am anymore. Everything I thought I had, everything I thought I was building, it was all fake. Our marriage was fake. The pregnancy was fake. Her love was fake. What does that say about me, that I couldn't tell the difference? It says you're trusting. It says you saw the best in someone. Those aren't flaws, Marcus. Don't let Sarah's crimes make you cynical. Too late. His laugh was bitter. I've already deleted all my dating apps. I look at every woman I meet now and wonder what she wants from me. I second guess every conversation. It's exhausting. That'll pass. With time, you'll heal. You'll learn to trust again. How can you be sure? Because you're strong. Because you're resilient. And because you have people who love you. I reached over and put my hand on his shoulder. I love you, son. I always have. I always will. And I'm here for whatever you need. His eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. I'm sorry I thought those things about you. Sarah was so convincing, and I wanted to believe her version because the alternative was too horrible. I understand. You don't need to apologize. Yes, I do. I cut you out of my life. I believed lies about you. I chose her over you, and you're the one person who's never let me down. You were protecting someone you thought you loved. Any decent person would do the same. We hugged then, a long, tight embrace. And I felt something break loose in my chest, some knot of tension I'd been carrying for months. When we pulled apart, Marcus wiped his eyes. Can I ask you something? Anything. What now? With your money, I mean. Are you going to keep living like this? Pretending you don't have it? I looked around my modest house. The old furniture, the patched recliner, the outdated television. This isn't pretending. This is how I like to live. But you're right that I should have been honest with you. So here's the truth. I have 12 commercial properties. They generate about $40,000 per month. I've invested well over the years. My net worth is around $8 million. When I'm gone, it's all yours. He shook his head slowly. That's surreal. My whole life I thought we were barely getting by. We were comfortable. Never wealthy, but never struggling. I made sure of that. What am I supposed to do with this information now? Nothing. Keep living your life. Keep building your career. The money will be there when you need it. I paused. But there is one thing I want to do right now. Those student loans you're carrying, what's the balance? About $92,000. Why? I'm paying them off. Tomorrow. That's not negotiable. You shouldn't carry that burden when I have the means to lift it. Dad, I can handle. Marcus, I let you struggle when you needed help. Let me do this one thing right. Please. He considered it, then nodded. Okay. Thank you. We talked for hours that night. About Sarah, about the case, about his job and his future. About smaller things too. Basketball, movies, the neighbors. Just father and son catching up on lost time. As he was leaving close to midnight, he turned at the door. Dad, I'm going to need help getting through this. The trial, the aftermath, rebuilding my life. I can't do it alone. You won't have to. I'm right here. He hugged me again. I love you, Dad. I love you too, son. After he left, I sat in my recliner and cried. Not from sadness, but from relief. My son was back. We'd survived this. We'd come through the fire, and we were still standing. 3 months passed. The trial moved forward slowly as trials do. Sarah and Kyle both pled not guilty, but the evidence against them was overwhelming. Derek testified. Brian testified. I testified. Marcus testified, which was the hardest day for him. He had to sit in a courtroom and describe how Sarah had manipulated him, lied to him, used him, but he got through it. And I was there in the gallery every single day making sure he knew he wasn't alone. The jury deliberated for only 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sarah got 12 years in federal prison. Kyle got 10. The judge called their crimes a callous, calculating campaign of fraud that destroyed lives and violated the basic trust that holds society together. As they led Sarah out of the courtroom in handcuffs, she looked at me one last time. There was no rage anymore, just emptiness. She'd lost, and she knew it. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked for comments. Marcus and I gave a joint statement. We talked about the importance of protecting yourself from fraud, about the warning signs we'd missed about supporting victims of con artists. We didn't gloat. We didn't celebrate. We just tried to turn our pain into something useful for others. That evening, Marcus came over for dinner at my place. I'd cooked my famous spaghetti and meatballs, the same recipe I'd made for him as a kid. "This tastes like home," he said, smiling for the first time in weeks. "That's because it is home. It's always been home." We ate and talked about the future. Marcus had been going to therapy twice a week, working through the trauma and betrayal. He said it was helping. He was sleeping better, starting to feel like himself again. "I've been thinking about what happened," he said. "About what I learned from all this." "What's that?" "That wealth doesn't define people. Character does. Sarah had money, or at least appeared to. She had the expensive clothes, the fancy lifestyle. But she was rotten inside. You lived modestly, wore old clothes, drove a beat-up truck. But you were willing to risk everything to protect me. That's real wealth. I wish I'd shown you that truth without all the pain. Maybe I needed to learn it the hard way. Maybe we both did." He told me he'd been on one date recently. A woman named Amy, who taught 3rd grade at a school near his office. They'd met at a coffee shop when she accidentally spilled her latte, and he'd helped her clean it up. She drove a 12-year-old Honda, lived in a modest apartment, and didn't care that Marcus was still recovering from a public scandal. "She treats people with kindness," Marcus said. "Not because she wants something from them, but because that's who she is. It's refreshing. You bringing her around to meet me. Maybe, if things keep going well. But this time, Dad, I'd appreciate it if you showed up as yourself. Nice clothes, your own car. No more tests. Deal. I promise." 2 weeks later, Marcus brought Amy over for dinner. I wore my good slacks and a decent button-down shirt. I drove my own car, a 3-year-old Lexus that I usually kept in the garage. And I was honest about who I was from the start. Amy was wonderful, warm, funny, genuine. She talked about her students, about her family back in Ohio, about her love of hiking and terrible reality television. She asked me about my real estate business with genuine curiosity. She looked at Marcus with affection, not calculation. When they left that evening, Marcus hugged me at the door. "What do you think?" "I think she's great. But more importantly, what do you think?" "I think I'm taking things slow. I think I'm being careful. But I also think she might be someone special." He smiled. "And this time, I'm going with my gut and with honest conversation. No secrets, no games. That's the way to do it." Over the following months, Marcus and I grew closer than we'd ever been. We started working together on a project, using some of my resources to fund affordable housing in underserved neighborhoods. It gave us both purpose and a way to turn something ugly into something good. Amy became a regular presence in our lives. She and Marcus moved in together after 6 months. A year later, they got engaged. And this time, when Marcus told me the news, I felt only joy. No suspicion, no doubt. Just happiness for my son. The wedding was small and beautiful. In my toast, I talked about how life teaches us lessons in unexpected ways. How sometimes we have to go through darkness to appreciate light. How the people who love us unconditionally are the real treasure in life. Marcus and Amy had their first child 2 years later, a little girl they named Emma. When I held my granddaughter for the first time, I thought about everything we'd been through to get to this moment. The pain, the betrayal, The fight, the reconciliation, it had all been worth it. One evening, as I sat with Emma in my old recliner, Marcus sat across from me in my living room and asked, "Do you have any regrets about how everything went down with Sarah?" I thought about it. I regret the test. I regret not being honest with you about my wealth from the start. I regret that you had to go through pain to learn what you learned. But I don't regret protecting you. I'd do that again in a heartbeat, even knowing it would cost you our relationship for a while. Even then, you're my son. Nothing is more important than that. He nodded slowly. I get it now. Now that Emma's here, I understand. I'd do anything to protect her. Anything. Even things that might hurt me or make me look bad. Because that's what parents do. That's exactly what parents do. As I sat there holding my granddaughter, I reflected on the entire journey. I'd learned that honesty should always come before cleverness. That trust is built through transparency, not tests. That real wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in relationships. Sarah had tried to steal my money. Instead, she'd taught me something far more valuable. She'd shown me that authenticity matters more than any amount of cash. That the people who love you when you have nothing to offer but yourself are the only ones worth keeping in your life. I'd spent years living modestly, thinking I was teaching my son important lessons about money and work. And maybe I was. But the real lesson came later in the fire of crisis, when we had to choose what mattered most. Marcus and I chose each other. We chose honesty. We chose love. And that made us richer than any bank account ever could. I looked at my son, at my granddaughter, at the life we'd rebuilt from the ashes of betrayal. This was what mattered. This was everything. You know what the best part is, I said to Marcus. We survived. We came through something that could have destroyed us, and we came out stronger. That's a victory Sarah can never take away. Yeah, Marcus said softly. Yeah, it is. Emma gurgled and grabbed my finger with her tiny hand. I looked down at her perfect little face and made her a silent promise. I'd be honest with her. I'd trust her to make her own choices. And I'd always be there when she needed me. That's what family does. That's what love is. Everything else is just details. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between protecting someone you love and respecting their autonomy? How did you handle it? Have you ever been tested by someone who wanted to see what you were really made of? Share your experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps us share these important lessons with more people. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future stories about family relationships and the complicated choices we all face. And if you know someone who might benefit from hearing this story, please share it with them. Sometimes we all need reminders about what really matters in life. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for taking this journey with me. May you always have the wisdom to see through deception, the courage to protect those you love, and the grace to forgive when forgiveness is earned. Take care of each other out there. That's what life's all about.